Okay, let's talk about Des Cendres by Les Abstraits. This is my sample right here. Um, when I smelled all three of them, because I smelled them all together, I thought that this one would be my favorite because this is an outdoorsy perfume and I really, really like outdoorsy perfumes. It's very cedary, it's very piney, it's a little bit smoky. It really reminds me of going to my cottage in the summer, which is something that people in Ontario do. And Eugene's from Ontario. I know that he has a place that he can go to also. And so the smell really evokes being out there and, partaking in everything that's a part of going up north to your cottage. Ontario gets super, super hot in the summer. It can be up to 40 degrees. It's very humid, so it can be muggy. So you drive north and there's all these little lakes and it's a lot cooler up there. You're by the water, so you can swim. It's not as populated, so you're not running into people all the time. It's definitely not as humid and as muggy. There's not as much pollution because you're outside of the city now. You're more in like the country. It's a little bit rural, but it's still not really developed. Like there's houses and things and cabins, but there's, the nearest grocery store is half an hour to an hour away, depending on where you are. So I go up north every summer. Lots of people in Ontario do that. Either they rent a place or they have a friend or someone in their family whose place they can go to. And, Des Cendres really evokes all of that because it is like going into a forest and really just enjoying being with nature and enjoying, the smell of walking through the woods. That's kind of what comes out of this. Des Cendres literally means ashes. So we're talking about what's left when things have burned down, which is kind of beautiful. Now, like all the other Les Abstraits perfumes, this definitely has a powderiness that comes out, and it comes out later, so towards the end of the wear. I would say probably on me at least in 2 or 3 hours of wear I get the seed or the iris that comes out. And all the Les Abstraits perfumes are a little bit powdery, so if you don't like powder and that's not your thing, maybe just keep that in mind. Definitely always sample before you blind buy, but that's something that appeals to me. I actually enjoy all the powder that comes out of each of these perfumes. And I've mentioned before that, I was looking for something powdery when these came along. So they very much, scratch that itch for me, and I really enjoy that. The other note that's interesting about Des Cendres is galbanum, and the perfume does open with a fair bit of galbanum. So galbanum is very green, it's very leafy. It again is outdoorsy. It's kind of like grass, even if you think about the smell of grass after the lawn's been mowed. So the perfume opens with that. If you've smelled Grey Flannel by Jeffrey Bean, that's a really popular galbanum centered perfume. Volver is another one. Vintage Volver has a lot of galbanum in it. There's lots of green galbanum perfumes around, and I feel like green perfumes are having a bit of a moment right now, which is kind of cool. So it opens with galbanum, so you've got the greenness, you've got that freshness, but there's also some smoke in the air, and that smokiness isn't something that I noticed right away. It kind of just hits me like every single time I wear it. I notice it a little bit more, and that's okay. But then really I get a lot of the cedar, the pine notes, the vetiver, and that I would say is the majority of this perfume. I know people have compared it to Fil en Guy by Serge Lutens, and I think they're a little bit different, to me at least. In the Lutens, I feel like there's that tart berry in the opening, and then it turns into more of a sappy, piney perfume. This one, I don't think there's no fruit in it, so I don't get any of that. And then I also don't think that this has any sappiness towards it. I think it's really just more of that green and a lot of cedar. I just get a lot of cedar. And again, that's like my association. That's what I think of when I go to my cottage, because we have a cedar deck and it's quite large. And then at nighttime, the rain or the dew lands on the cedar, and in the morning, once the sun comes out, it starts to evaporate. So you smell that cedar in the air, and you can always kind of smell it, like it's just around in that area. And there's lots of, you know, deciduous trees and not as many pine trees where I am. So that greenness combined with those you know, the cedar planks, and then also like cut trees, like, you know, sawdust almost, that is kind of what I get out of Des Cendres. And it just makes me think of being up at the cottage, you know. It makes me think of all the things that go along with it, as long as you're in the woods and you're contemplating in the woods. And I know that that's what was supposed to come out of this perfume. It was supposed to be, you know, being at peace and kind of you know, just laying things to rest, kind of, and it was moving forward from that. So I mentioned at the beginning, I thought this would be my favorite one, but it's actually a little bit stronger than I had anticipated. So on my skin, I just need 1 or 2 sprays and then I can smell it the whole entire day. I don't mind that. I think that's a good thing, but I haven't run out of it for that reason. There's also a hint of castoreum, so a little bit of animalicness that comes out, and on paper, I didn't really notice it, but on my skin, it comes out way more. And so that is something that I always keep in mind when I wear it also, because I have to be ready to have that on my skin. Not that I mind, but it just doesn't make it as easy of a wear as maybe some other outdoor perfumes are. I also have spent so much time outside recently that I haven't been reaching for this as much. I've actually reached for Bel Ame the most, and I think maybe that's my favorite perfume. I think that's the one that's the most comforting, the most surprising, and the easiest wear. It's kind of a, you know, a dumb reach, as they say, like you can just grab it and throw it on, and so I like that. But I like all of them, I would say, but I haven't really decided on which one would be my favorite. But that's what I smell when I smell Des Cendres. In case you were interested in smelling any of these, definitely think you should get samples if you were interested, instead of blind buying, because there's something interesting about all of them and something different that comes out every time you wear them. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about perfume. You never kind of know what you're gonna smell, even though you think you do, you know. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.